Hey everybody, welcome to Maximum Muscle Reports 2018 Olympia Preview. Mandus Buckle alongside host Peter McGough. Peter, it's going to be an exciting year here. How are you feeling and what are you seeing for this year coming up?
Well, first of all, let me explain this because it looks a bit suspicious. I mean, I tried a bit of tap dancing and I fell in the sink. Now, what happened? I live in Florida, the insect capital of the world. They've got this nasty bite. It went all strange, and they had to dig it out. So I've had to wear this. So it's nothing dramatic. So this Olympia is Phil's going for history. Phil Heath in the open class, and also Flex Lewis is. So there's some new guys coming in. There's some old ones that might be. So it might be a changing of the guard in some ways.
Yeah, this could be one of the most highly anticipated Olympias we've seen in years, if not in a decade or so. There's multiple divisions where we might see changing of the guards, as you've said, and we could possibly see that in the 212 as well. So there's a lot for us to talk about here this afternoon. Peter, let's start with the 212 division and your old friend Flex Lewis.
Yeah. Let's be honest. Flex is a real warrior. There's been a couple of times the last few years where maybe he's, last year he wasn't as good as he normally is. He had a lot of problems, personal with the Dallas McCarver, death that affected him. But I think, given his spirit, he's going to go out hot. He's not going to want to go out failing. So I think he'll come in as good as he's ever been and probably better than he's ever been. He's going to be very, very difficult to unseat. He's got the balance, he's got the condition, he's got the confidence, and he's got the drive. So it's really going to be tough for anybody to unseat him, I think.
It's interesting you say that. For the last couple of years, us here at Maximum Muscle Report, we've been doing a lot of footage and covering a young man named Derek Lunsford. And the majority of the country is on the Derek Lunsford train, and as they should be. This is a guy who we can see at some point will be a champion. But I have to agree with you, Peter. A champion's a champion for a reason, and especially when you've won as many times as Flex. Between the fact that this is his last year in the 212 division and the fact that there is a Derek Lunsford train that's coming on the tracks headed for Flex Lewis and the 212 title, I just can't see Flex Lewis backing away from any of those challenges. Will show why he is the greatest 212 champion of all time. Will end up winning again this year. As you touched on, his conditioning, his balance, his symmetry, his heart. He looks like a piece of granite, Peter. He really does. I think that's probably the differential between him and a young Derek Lunsford right now, who has a pretty physique. It really flows well, but he's not going to quite have that look of a Flex Lewis. So I agree with you. I think we see him finish out this run, going out champion, and I see Derek Lunsford pushing him for everything he can, but ends up sitting in a two-hole when it's all said and done.
Yeah, Derek is, 24, 25? He is the future.
Right.
He is a prodigy. He's got a tremendous frame, really wide shoulders and all the rest of it, narrow waist, and he's packing on muscle. He's terribly confident, not overconfident,
right,
but told shoot champion as well. So he has got to that point where he's got the, if we can use the phrase, the muscle maturity that a Flex Lewis has.
Correct.
He'll get there. When this hits his peak, he is the future. I really do believe that.
Absolutely.
Of this division, and then possibly he might go to Flex, where eventually he's maxed out at 212 and has to go into the open.
I agree. And that's something Derek has talked with us about in depth. that 212 is not the end of his story. He does plan on following, I guess we'd say following Flex from the 212 into the Open. How exciting that's going to be. And you know, Peter, I don't know if it gets talked about enough. Flex Lewis has been such an amazing ambassador to the sport and such a gracious champion. And ironically enough, the guy pushing him is Derek Lunsford, who is very similar. Very confident yet very humble, comes from a humble Midwest, you know, and loves to give back to the fans, give back to younger athletes. So when that torch is passed, the 212 division is in fantastic hands for what has been a decade and what looks to be another, you know, 5 to 10 years from then. Let's talk about the rest of the top 5 here. Ashkenani, wow, he's not getting talked about very much, and finished second last year.
Yeah, I think he broke through a couple of years ago, didn't he? He came from nowhere, and he's got that absolutely ridiculous back. He's got the back of a super heavyweight. But in a way, that leads to a certain imbalance because his quads, his lower body isn't the same. The funny thing is, from the side, his hands are thick and straight. You know, it's just the quads. To me, it doesn't seem as if he's improved in 2 years. And I think he's had some knee surgery as well. So we'll have to see how that holds him up. But as I said, from 2 years ago, I thought he'd come on a bit, you know, for last year. But he didn't seem a lot different from the 2016 Olympia to the 2017. But he's going to be extremely dangerous, and he's going to be a crowd favorite because he just packs on all that muscle. It's ridiculous.
Absolutely. And the conditioning is there. The freaky look is there. Like most of the 212 guys, for whatever reason, this division, they really come in dry, hard, tight, shredded. Yeah, they have to fit into that weight, but they are shorter guys. So there really shouldn't be as much of a differential, but they definitely bring it when it comes to that.
If we can go back to Flex, I think he's defined this class, hasn't he? Yeah. And the strange thing is, the nice thing to see is the 212 guys want to hang out in a way that the open guys don't. Right. There's a certain camaraderie about. And I think Flex as the leader, it's all drifted down to everybody. You don't have to be a swine to get on. You can be nice. You look at Raymond and Flex, the relationship, and all these guys have these great relationships. Derek has come on the same way. That they are like a band of brothers, and probably having to make that weight means that's why they come in condition. Whereas an open guy thinks, oh, 265, that'll do me. I don't have to go to 255, you know, and because they are 212 guys. Usually, all of them are in shape, and you can't say the same about the open guys.
Correct. You know, it's interesting. You just talked about Flex kind of leading the way with the camaraderie, and you just mentioned someone else, a good friend of yours, a friend of mine, and what has seemed to be now probably, if not the one of the greatest fan favorites of all time, coming out of any division, and this is now his last Olympia, Jose Raymond. Jose, congratulations, and on behalf of myself, Peter, and everybody else, we are all absolutely rooting for you. I think Jose sits in the 4th spot. I think he does everything he needs to do to really represent himself and his career the best he can, finishing 4th in his last Olympia, and I think he's going to get the biggest standing ovation.
Oh, yeah. I mean, from the pictures we've seen just in the last few days, he's going to be on. Again, it's that same drop to go out with a bang. Not to say, well, if I don't do well this year, I can come back next year. It's all on the line. It's a gamble. It's like the last round, 15 round. You've got to knock him out now. Yeah. You know, and what a competitor he is. I would say Jose is. I think if Black had to lose, he would rather lose to Jose than anybody. Right. That's how knit together this group is, you know, and everybody loves Jose. I mean, what a story he's got from his upbringing and his tenacity, and he's just you know, a regular guy who everybody loves.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, it's interesting. One of the guys who works for us who runs the Bodybuilding by Bodybuilders forum here for Maximum Muscle Report is from the Northeast. And he even says, up in the Northeast, Jose is a legend. He's their mythological, you know, person that they put up on a pedestal and everybody goes to him. So once again, Jose, everybody's rooting for you as this being your last Olympia. Peter, rounding out the top 5, you know, Canada hasn't traditionally produced a whole lot of really successful IFBB professional league athletes. And all of a sudden, there is a swarm of them in every division. The Open, Bikini, Classic Physique, Men's Physique, and now here in the 212, Mr. Zane Watson, and he's looking freaky. Now, he's a guy who might eventually have to move to the Open as well, but wow, he's coming along with that Jose Flex-like hardness, freakiness, conditioning, and he's got some balance and symmetry there. I see him being the guy to round out the top 5, and some veterans like a Derrick Henry might now be slipping out of the top 5.
Yeah, Zane Watson, I mean, you know, the hardness, the grittiness, everything. And then somehow the paradox to that is he's posing. You know, I saw him pose to The Sound of Silence at the Arnold. That's one of the best posing routines I've ever seen. From start to finish, fully synchronized, hitting his best shots, almost balletic. That's what posing should be about, even though it's not scored, although it was at the Arnold. David Henry, I've always thought, you know, I think he should have beaten Ashkenazi at the Arnold last year. He always gets marked down because, you know, his thighs aren't full and voluminous, but they're striated. In many ways, if you look at his upper body, to me, he's like the Phil Heath of the 212. Everything's there, everything's round, flows together. His back's got such crazy stuff going on. And it's going to be tough, that top 5. You know, it's not a slam dunk to say, well, these 5 guys or 6 or 7.
Absolutely.
You know, there's people coming out of the woodwork, and as you can just up, down, it could go anyway.
Yeah, you know, you're talking about a really nice mix. You've got another veteran, Charles Dixon, in there. Kamal Argnani, who is in his 40s, just finally got his pro card because of what was going on internationally and came out of nowhere and won the Arnold earlier this year. Then you've got a couple of younger guys really climbing, Dwayne Camila and Sean Clarita. So you've really got a mix here of guys who, like you said, any of them could jump into the 4 or 5 or battling, you know, 6 through 10. Gonna be extremely, extremely exciting.
The 212s, to be honest, have been more exciting, more competitive the last few years than the Open. The Opens tended to be 4 or 5 guys in shape and then they fight for it. But in the 212s, they're all there. They're all on the money mostly. Yeah.
Well, that pretty much rounds out the 212 for us. There's a list of other guys, but we'd be here for hours if we talked about every single one of them. So I think we pretty much rounded out the top 10. Congratulations to all the rest of you who have made the list and will be there. And any of you who make it into the top 10, congratulations. We apologize if we didn't mention your name. It's just due to time. But we wish all of them the best as well.
If they've got any complaints about it, I'm talking direct to them now. Go and see Manders. Leave me alone.
Okay. Yeah. One of them might want to match it and give it to you on the right side as well, Peter.
Well, the name of the game is symmetry, so I suppose I should have another one that's
there you go.
balance it out. Yeah.
Well,